And boom, according to that, I am live. Welcome. My name is Hiko Simon. This is Tokyo Tonight. It is 10:31 p.m. Japan Standard Time. Good to see so many people already walked in here. We've got 8 concurrent viewers. See if I can pull this out a bit so I can see how many likes. We've got 5 likes, 8 viewers. Great to see everybody already rocking in here. And yeah, indeed, looks like we have Shubus, first one here with a cup of coffee I see as well. Good to see. We've got Kerberos Tenchi, a man from Germany. Early in the morning or late at night, but good to have you with us. We've got Yoni, a man from Finland. Good to have you in here, coffee maker, and hype is on. I'll do my best. We'll see what we can do. Aaron, great to see you. And 270 AJ, good to see you as well in the chat, and good to see everybody rocking in. Do say hello as always. Oh, we've got Mr. Quaddy Chep. I see. I can't select it on the side here yet, but I can see the other names coming in the chat actually. Let me turn this window towards me a little bit so I can see a bit better until it comes up. I can't share the comment. Okay, so the live comments that I'm seeing over here are not keeping up with the live chat that I'm seeing on the screen, but I can definitely see who have we got here. Quentin Rankin, boom, good to see you, Quentin Rankin. Tai Nakamura, excellent to see you. Mr. Cordy Chep, almost missed out, but you didn't. Sadiq, Hakan Guris, good to have you in here. I'm man from Florida. I am here too. Good morning, good evening, good to see you. Good to see everybody. Nice to see some emoji actions as well there as well. It's kind of cool how you can, yeah, show little animations on that now, at least the way that I'm capturing it on the screen. Yeah, great to see everybody in there. It's been an interesting week. It's been just last couple of days with some stuff being shared on Twitter, for example, a lot of discussion going around about English teaching places, various bits and pieces. So yeah, I can share all of that. I can tell you from today, or from last night. Last night's the night when I finally switched over to using a duvet from using a towel kit. Towel kits, by the way, I've never seen them in other countries. So they have this like in America where instead of like, sheets or like a duvet spread or a bedspread, I guess they call it over there. Do you have like just a towel sheet? That's what they have in Japan, and you actually kind of need it because summer is so like hot and humid and sweaty. It's just like this, and it's great because in winter you can keep using it like as a sort of a blanket. But in summer, instead of you don't need anything, but it's good just to have this sort of towel sheet. Just switched from that last night. It got cold enough that I pulled out the dusty old bed cover just before I went to bed. But my allergies were fine, and it was, yeah, the temperatures have just plummeted from like 27 to a high temperature of 11 today, which is what it should be. But the whole of November, so far, it's basically been the warmest November ever by a long way. So, yeah, we're finally having autumn, or as Americans call it, fall. So I like to say that autumn has fallen. I don't really understand exactly the logic behind how that ended up being as it is, but that is how it is. So yeah, we're finally getting, hopefully it'll start getting red leaves and everything soon. A lot of places are complaining. Lots of stuff in the news actually, how normally right now would be like salmon season in Honshu, the main island of Japan, but there's none there because the sea is all so warm that they're all up in the north. All the red leaf viewing areas are still all delayed because it's all still kind of green at the moment. So yeah, looks like the chat is caught up over here. So again, we've got Aaron, good to see you, Aaron. We've got Quentin Rankin, boom, indeed. Sashiburi, Tatai Nakamura, Sashiburi, long time no see. Whoa, what's happened there? I've got the chat dropping out there. Who else we got in here? We've got Yoni, boom, it's on indeed. Good to see Sadiq. We've also got Kia ora from Kofai, a New Zealand viewer. In fact, long time no see indeed. Kia ora is how we say in hello in New Zealand, in Maori. And if you're 4 hours ahead, which I think you're, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning right now, so I do appreciate you showing up. And the screen sharing has collapsed. That is a shame. That happens sometimes. We can reboot that. I will reboot that in the background while I continue to talk. So I do remember, I think I've mentioned this before, when I was in Spanish class, and my teacher, one day she'd start the beginner's class with a question, and she said, so everybody, hey, kia ora es? And we all heard her and said, kia ora es buenos dias in New Zealand. And she's looking at us confused, saying, no, kia ora es? And we were like, so to us it sounded like, well, what does kia ora mean? And kia ora is how we say hello, but of course it also sounds a lot like kia ora. What time is it in Spanish? And we had this large disconnect. So yes, indeed, good to see you, kia ora. Kofai. And light comfort is only in Japan, says Aaron. So, okay, it's not a thing. I haven't seen it in Australia or other places either. So, or in New Zealand. New Zealand doesn't get that warm to begin with. But, boom, will this connect? I'm just rebooting the screen sharing. Oh, thank heavens. We're back. We're back. For some reason, whenever I do that, it always just moves just a little bit. There we go. Yeah, that apparently is a thing in other places too. Shubis, you're blockaded for 3 weeks now with no food or gas coming in. Shubis, you're in Panama. How come you've been blockaded for 3 weeks in Panama? I haven't heard any news from there. Very sorry to hear that. Geez, that sounds awful. That sounds like Gaza or something. Hope that you're doing okay there. I'd love to hear what's going on. No end in sight. Oh dear. Like, this is in Panama? Well, what's happening there? It's economic? It's a political thing? What's going on with that? Very sorry to hear that indeed. I quite agree with Aaron there. That does sound horrible. Vincent Birch, another man from New Zealand. Oh, good to see you. Oh, good. December Clouds in there, I should say hello. Just got in there first. Good to see you. You are not too late indeed. Vincent Birch, good to see you, mate. I see you just left me a comment on another video asking if I always fly back to New Zealand on Air New Zealand. I haven't. I've been on Air New Zealand domestically, but normally because I go see my mum in Australia, that'll mean I'll go there probably by Qantas, although I can do Air New Zealand as well. And last time I went there, I tagged it onto a work trip to Singapore. So I actually went Singapore Airlines, which was awesome. So I haven't really flown like internationally on Air New Zealand, geez, since like 2006. It's been a long time. So I don't really know where New Zealand's at. I've flown domestic flights in New Zealand, inside New Zealand, but I don't know, it probably is the best way back. I was using Korean Airlines for a time. That's another cheap way of getting back to New Zealand. The only thing is you have to fly the opposite way to Korea, wait, and then fly back over Japan again towards New Zealand, which is always a little bit frustrating. So price-wise, I don't know if that's the best, but that's what I was doing for a while anyway. Brad F, kia ora, good to see you. Yeah, warm in New Zealand is like -5 degrees, says Mr. Cordy Chad. Now, New Zealand warm is very, very nice and mild. It's like 25, which to Australians probably feels like -5, but there you go. Sadiq, a man shot 2 anti-mining protesters in Panama. The already tense demonstrations have become deadly. Oh dear, so there's been a whole bunch of protesters there, anti-mining protesters. I haven't heard about that. I'm sorry to hear that. So there's 21 blockades between Panama City and where you live. It's all about a new mining contract that the government signed. Geez, I'm going to look that up. I haven't seen that on BBC, but that sounds really, really bad. I'm sorry to hear that, Shubha. So I'm glad to hear at least you have a coffee with you. But yeah. Well, the world is going crazy, and I guess we're going to talk a little bit about that. But today, obviously, as always, focusing a little bit more on Japan. But yeah, sorry to hear that, Shubhas, and I do hope that things improve for you very, very soon. So yeah, as always, just I know that there's always lurkers there, and there's people who just like to listen while they do stuff, and they don't, leave comments. But I do appreciate it. It's always nice to feel part, everybody participating. It's part of the fun. So do say hello if you want to, and if not, that's totally fine. I am going to dive into the topics. And yeah, so the first ones that I've got, remember going in reverse order, going from newest to latest. So the problem with that sometimes is that the conversation starts earlier. In fact, you know what? Let's live dangerously. Let's go back like 6 days and move forward, because at least that way conversations will make more sense. And honestly, I don't really post very much at the start of the week, so I think it should move fairly quickly. It's more fresh, obviously, what's more recent. But okay, let's go this way. So yeah, Osaka won the Japan series. That is basically a video of a guy. I have no immediate plans to jump into an enormous open-air toilet, but if I do, I'll try to do it like this guy who did a big bomb. Look at him go. Toilet. That's like Train Spotting, only with more energy. That scene where he dives into the toilet. Yeah, that is some crazy stuff there. Again, I can't really select and highlight chat because it's not refreshing over here, so I'll keep looking on the screen. But congratulations to the Hanshin Tigers. They broke the curse of the Colonel, where apparently 35 years ago, after they won a tournament, someone got overexcited, threw a statue of the Colonel Sanders from a nearby KFC into the Dotonbori River. And they never won a game after that. And people started to talk about the curse of the Colonel, which has now been replaced where they had someone dressed up as a colonel and people threw him in celebration. I don't know if that starts the curse again, but yeah, there's people there went a bit crazy. Do not do that, though. Literally, I made a joke about people jumping in there and getting herpes. apparently it actually happened, although it's not clear if he got the herpes from the river or from being so popular after he got out. I don't know. But in any case, good to see we've got more people rocking in. We've got Dan H. Yes, indeed. Hoping Shiba stays safe. Are you up in the mountains? Okay, well, glad to hear that. Sapporo J, good to see you, Sapporo J. Snowed a bit today. I heard about that up there. I heard you've already got real winter stuff. I mean, that's, I guess, what Sapporo does this time of year. Good for the economy up there, getting some snow and some skiers up there. And nice to have someone called Sapporo J. And I've never been to Sapporo. I would love to go. Yeah, it's one of the places in Japan, probably the place I've most intended to go and not been in my 25 years here. So I really should go there. Believe in yourself. Excellent to see you. Good evening. Dan H, thoughts about the Shinkansen food cart disappearance? Oh, you know what? Okay, there we go. So yes, this week apparently the lady who pushes the food cart up and down the Shinkansen, they're no longer doing that for whatever reason. It's not economic or whatever. I mean, I guess the cost of the old lady pushing the cart up and down. I don't. When you're on a train for like 6 hours, it is really nice to be able to buy an overpriced sandwich. And it was something I really enjoyed from my first time backpacking around Japan, that it was part of the routine on the Japan Rail Pass. I traveled from Tokyo to Fukuoka, 6 hours on the bullet train, and I had about 3 or 4 guys on business trips that would sit down next to me, and when they realized they could speak in Japanese with me, they would like buy me a dried squid, which I hated, and a beer. So I'd have a bit of the squid and then the beer to like wash it down. And then when he'd get off the train, I would like immediately throw away or hide the dried squid. And then another Oisan would sit down next to me and start talking. He would buy me a dried squid and another beer. And it was a really nice way to travel, and they could do this because these ladies were going up and down the train selling dried squid, beer, bento sandwiches. And it was a nice part of the overall experience of traveling by bullet train. That said, in all my jobs since I've come here in 1999, I haven't really done jobs that have involved using the bullet train very much. And so I haven't used it much. And I also admit that when I fly, I typically when I travel domestically, I'll use planes more than bullet trains, just based on being in Tokyo, I guess. So that said, for me, it's more of a 1990s memory using the cart on the train. But it is a shame, again, if you're really using the bullet train as it's intended for longer trips. It's a nice feature of traveling, and it's a shame that it's gone. But there you go. Yeah, I guess you can always get out at the train stations and get bentos and stuff like that, or you'd stock up before you get on the train. But so perhaps it's not necessary, but it's a sentimental thing, I guess, to lose. So yeah, good. Thanks for the question, Dan H, and good to see you in the chat. Sadiq, we've got Japanese people protested the U.S. Antony Blinken on Gaza policy. Well, there are groups of people protesting the U.S. and Japan on not being more forthright about Gaza policy and so on. And that's right, Blinken was in Japan, but he had a lot of security. I mean, America is still Japan's like military for all intents and purposes. So Japan kept the protesters far away. And the protesters, I mean, in a city of 36 million, there weren't a lot of people. And the groups that showed up, I suppose, were in some ways the usual suspects. They weren't like, you're seeing the mass protests in other cities. But that said, Japan is, as I've said before on this show, Japan doesn't really have much in the way of ties with Israel. It does have very strong ties with Arab countries and the whole Middle East, including Iran, actually. They have pretty good ties, which they rely so much on Middle Eastern countries for oil, of course, and energy. So they generally take their cues from Arab countries on what positions to hold. And I guess that's allowed Japan to put itself forward. They've traveled to Jordan, sent diplomats to Jordan, and they're trying to adopt the role of some kind of a mediator, at least being able to be a close US ally that's able to express concerns of Arab countries. So Japan public and media and politics is generally sympathetic to the Palestinian cause and not so close to Israel. There were protests, but I would say on the level that you would expect, and probably not as much, even if they had like in the US, but they were there indeed. So yeah, this guy keeps diving in. He just loves diving in the toilet. I'm getting the comments. I'm responding to the comments as they come up and engaging with that as a priority. So as a result, this poor person keeps jumping in the toilet. So yeah, I'm going to jump back in. Just quickly check. Are there any new chatters? I do not see any new handle names. So I'm going to dive into the next topic. I'm already fixated by this person diving into a highly polluted river. Again, Rochelle Kopp's efforts to foster awareness that they're going to be chopping down like 750 trees, including, you see this picture of Meiji Jingu Gaien, which, by the way, I would actually walk along this every day with my son going to kindergarten. I used to live in that area. And that particular, the bottom right of the photo, you see those like 4 stripes of green trees in autumn, this time of year, they become bright, spectacularly yellow. They're ginkgo trees. And it's considered like one of the best like autumn leaf like walking destinations in Tokyo. And you can see beside those 4 trees, there's tennis courts, and those are going to be knocked down and replaced with a big high-rise building. And the concern is that putting the high-rise building there is going to chop all the roots of the trees on the left hand that are closest to where those tennis courts are, and is going to kill them and wipe out that as a tourist spot, as well as chopping down 700 other trees for the development in that area. Which a lot of people have pointed out is kind of, this is like a sort of a sacred space in central Tokyo. And it seems unnecessary. So the landowner says that they understand that they should have consulted more, and they're going to look for ways to preserve and reduce the number of trees that have to be cut down, and try to ensure that the Icho Namiki Street with all the ginkgo trees isn't going to be cut down. But so that's definitely, they're not going to proceed with any development until next year, and they're asking for more understanding, and they're going to try to be more considerate. So actually big success for the activists who are opposing that redevelopment, which also will of course involve knocking down, that's the rugby stadium you can see beside the tennis courts, Chichibunomiya, which is the main rugby stadium in Japan, although it doesn't have that many people. It's going to be replaced with an indoor stadium that will only have about 5,000 seats. So it's actually not going to be able to do international matches anymore, which is another point of contention. The big baseball stadium there is the Yakult Swallows Stadium. It's very old now. I'm actually thinking that it does make sense to rebuild that, although of course some fans don't like it. But in any case, it's been a good, rare success for activists actually to be able to overturn the plans to proceed with that. So what can we do? Is this my life? Hi from Sweden. Good to have you from Sweden. Good to see you there in the chat. Thanks for joining. This is sort of interesting. Apparently in the United, so right now a Big Mac set, so like medium-sized drink, medium fries, Big Mac. By the way, I've kind of gone off. There have been periods in my life where I've had McDonald's. It's like Coca-Cola. You get into a habit of eating it when you're having it. So there are periods in my life when I'd have McDonald's 2 or 3 days a week. However, as soon as you have a bad experience with it, apart from the fact of, when you have a bad experience, you get a little bit grossed out. And then you think, well, why am I eating this in the first place? So, I've had a few of those sort of moments of clarity. And so I haven't had a Big Mac. I haven't had a McDonald's now in about 5 or 6 years. So I think that the Mac set price has actually gone up from 650 yen to 750 yen. However, apparently right now, in the United States, while this isn't the regular price of a Mac set, there is like a town in Connecticut with a franchisee. Apparently franchises of McDonald's in America can set their own prices. And in a particularly remote location, they feel like they can get away with charging $18 for a Big Mac set, which is 2,700 yen for the cost of a 750 yen set in Japan. And certainly just because the yen is continuing to be so cheap against the US dollar, it's down to about 152 right now, which is really 50% out of whack at the moment. So again, if you're in America or anywhere with a decent currency, right now Japan is on an amazing sale. It's a great time to come here and a bad time to leave Japan. But it's that is just an incredible price. And I think based on the Economist Big Mac Index, every year they compare economies, how they're doing and how their currency is out of whack by measuring the cost of a Big Mac in every country, because McDonald's sells Big Macs in almost every country. And I think right now Japan would be like among the cheapest places, best value places to buy a Big Mac. The stuff there is really cool. The prices are very good value, even though I haven't gone back. By the way, the things that happened was, first time I stopped eating Big Macs for about 5 years was when I got basically an uncooked patty in one of them. Second time was at my local. The last time was there was a dead fly in the fries, and I just look at that and like, why am I even eating this? And my life has honestly been better, although I didn't really like Big Macs, so I don't know. Maybe I'll give them another shot sometime, but not so long as I can remember those 2 things that I just mentioned. Vincent Birch. A wee bit of a different topic, like the Kiwi accent in all of the messages. But in Japan, I gave my lad kanji for his Western name, but katakana for the girl's Western name. Regret that now. What did I do for my kids? My kid, he has his name is one of the names that goes in both directions, not Ken. We tried to do anything but Ken, but it's a kanji name, but it's a name that works in both directions. So Romaji and kanji, that's what we did. So same as your lad, probably. It's kind of funny because names are so much easier for girls. There are so many names that cross over between English and Japanese for girls, less so for boys. So I'm kind of surprised that you ended up there, but there you go. Quint Ranked for $18 for a Mac. Apparently there's a place in Connecticut that actually sells that. I don't know. It must be a Halliburton franchise or something. I don't know how they can do that, but apparently it exists. Believe in yourself. You used to take advantage of 24-hour service of A&W. I tried to have A&W in Vancouver, but the only place that I found was closed. So yeah, I don't know what's happening with that. Order a bag full of Mama Burgers, which are effectively a duplicate taste of the small McDonald's burger. Well, there you go. Yeah, by the way, there's a place in Seattle called Dick's Drive-Thru. And it's awful, but everyone in Seattle like is adamant it's the best hamburger chain or hamburger place like in the world, and it's terrible. It's dry, flavorless, just awful burgers. But there you go. Oh, what's happening with this chat here? Not refreshing. I feel like, can I refresh this? Boom. Am I going to kill something if I do this? And there we go. I hit refresh and now everything shows up. Wow, lots of people. And we've got Anime Samurai in the chat. Okay, so I had to hit refresh. I didn't want to touch it, but there we go. Ooh, indeed. Anime Samurai, unrelated. When is a good time to visit Japan? Is December, January too cold? Well, it depends on what you're used to. January, the weather gets a bit snowy and unstable. December is excellent. Normally it's stable. It's cold, but it's sunny. It depends also where you're going, of course. If you're coming to Tokyo, Tokyo's December, dry, sunny, cold. So, bring a jacket, but it's fine. January can get a little bit snowy and wild at the end of the month. Anywhere outside of Tokyo, particularly January, it does get very cold. Tokyo's okay. Tokyo's like 5 to 10 degrees, but other places get a lot of snow and very cold. So it kind of depends on what you're used to, Anime Samurai, but I would say December's a great time to come. Anytime between like September and December would be considered like the best window to come to Japan. So even right now, that'd be a good time. Yeah. So, indeed, doner kebabs become more popular. I love me some doner kebabs. Yes, indeed. So, okay, can I? Oh, okay. If I manually hit refresh, what can I do? Sainted Sir, hello all. It's 8:52 a.m. in chilly New York City. Good to have you at New York City. Good to have you there in the chat. And I'm sure it's chillier there than here. We're finally getting proper seasonal weather, but there you go. So this is awesome. Check this out. See this ball getting hit. Apparently Ichiro went to Asahikawa Higashi High School to basically coach the local baseball team. And he hit like a 130-meter home run equivalent, smashed a window, which I guess for the school, to get Ichiro to smash a window at the school, they get to keep him for longer because he has to stay for detention. I also love the look on his face after. So for those, everybody knows who Ichiro is. He's probably considered, well, now we actually have Otani, who's probably even eclipsed Ichiro as probably the best hitter of all time coming out of Japan. But Ichiro played for Seattle Mariners, and yeah, he's retired, but still cannot miss. And he's not really a home run hitter type player. He just basically connects with the ball every time. He can't miss the ball. He's not a big hitter. He just always gets base hits. But there you go. Looks like he can do big hits as well. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Ido, good to see you in here, by the way. Oh, Miss Jither, you're in Denmark. Good to have you in here, Denmark. Ido, good to have you in the chat. Is this my life? Go to Lilla Dalarna in Tokyo, Swedish restaurant. There's a Swedish restaurant in Tokyo. The only Swedish restaurant I've knowingly been to in Tokyo is the IKEA cafeteria, which in Japan you call IKEA, which I think is closer to what you call it in Sweden. You don't call it IKEA, do you? Calling it with English mispronunciation would be pretty dumb. So you know what neighborhood Lilla Dalarna is? Maybe someone can look it up. I'd be curious to, all I know is like meatballs. I would love to try Swedish food. Anyway, I do appreciate the recommendation. So anyway, that was Ichiro. Influenza going crazy at the moment in Tokyo. Oh yeah, we had some crazy weather during the week. I took a time lapse out the window from. I've got a good view from where I sit when I'm working. That's a view out the window. It's pretty cool. What else have we got going on here? I must admit, I'm torn looking between chats which I can highlight and on screen. I'm going to keep racing forward. WeWork filed for bankruptcy. Eddie Jones, Australian rugby, half Australian, half Japanese rugby coach, has resigned from coaching Australia for rugby and has hinted he might be interested in coming back to Japan. He was an excellent coach for Japan, helped Japan beat South Africa, the current world champions, and world champions back then as well. So, I would I like Yeti. I know he's not well liked in Australia right now, but I do like him, so that would be cool. I'd be up for that. Rapongi says, "Is this my life?" Just caught that. Good to know. And if you got to tell me, okay, is this my life? And the Sergeant Bilko, I don't see you in the chat, but if you're there, Swedish people, even Ida, I know you're across the way, but even Danish people can maybe tell me, if I go to a Swedish restaurant, what should I order? Like, what's the thing that you have to like? If you go to a New Zealand restaurant, you must order lamb. Probably you should order mussels, and you should get pavlova cake for dessert. That's a New Zealand restaurant. If I go to a Swedish restaurant, Swedish people tell me, what should I get? I mean, because like I say, all I know is meatballs. So yeah. This is interesting. This is just a map of everywhere in the world where there's more than one human per square kilometer. It's an interesting map, and it's going to be a changing map as well. Yeah, just thought that was interesting to share. Got a lot of reaction from this, 198 likes. I have a dream. I have a dream of a Tokyo where the two towers can live together in harmony, but also one where Tokyo Tower appears to be slightly bigger. Again, this is another view that I have from where I work, and it's a nice view. You can see both of the towers almost side by side, except, of course, even though the Skytree is like 3 times taller, I think, than Tokyo Tower, it looks slightly taller from where I am. It's a nice view. Gaijin Mami, who lives right beside Tokyo Tower Skytree and posts photos of it every day, took those as fighting words. It's a dream on, but hey, from where I am, that's how it looks. So yeah, you look at it from the right angle, it can look bigger. Refreshing the chat, saying, can I get some more things up on here? Kerberos Tenshi, whatever I do, don't get surströmming. I don't know if you just made me say something I'm not supposed to say. I'm sure I mispronounced it, whatever it was anyway, but okay. Thanks. Vincent Birch, us Kiwis have a shot to win the Cricket World Cup this year. You're asking me? I have no idea. It sounds like we're going to make the semi-finals, which is always a surprise. So that part of it's nice. But yeah. Brad F asks, Australian or New Zealand pavlova? To which the answer is there can be only one. Pavlova was invented in New Zealand. And like all good things Australian, was stolen from New Zealand. There's a big fight between New Zealand and Australia who invented the most delicious cake in the world. It's pavlova. It's a big meringue cake with a soft sponge. It's got basically, it's like a meringue cream internal with like crispy meringue on the outside, whipped cream on top, and fruit. And it's the best cake in the world. And we have a huge fight over who invented it. Rapongi, there we go. Aaron, thank you for the information. Wow, you're on the ball. I do appreciate that. Yes, Ida, as a Dane, advise me not to eat at a Swedish restaurant. Come on, I thought Scandinavians are all friends. Although I understand that Danes think they can speak like Scandinavian language that everyone can understand, but people can't really understand them. I know Finns speak a totally different language, but yeah. Oh, okay. So it's the fermented herring. I've heard of this, like what Icelandic people also eat, right? The surströmming. Okay, well, warning taken. I don't mind herring, but I'll take the advice on that. So thank you, Sadiq. Why don't you Istanbul and try a Turkish meat restaurant? Turkey is also Japanese friendly. Well, there are heaps of. I'd love to go to Turkey. Turkey is one of the countries I'd love to go to, and Turkish food is one of my favorite types of food because I'm a big lamb, big hummus, big cheese and goat cheese and milk sort of a person. Yes, love Turkish food. Would love to go to Turkey for the food. And in Tokyo, there are lots of Turkish restaurants, and it's one of those things. If I'm like walking around looking for lunch and there's a Turkish place, boom, I am right there. In fact, it's something I wish. Vietnamese food and Turkish food are the foods missing from the neighborhood where I work that I really wish was there. So you don't have to ask me twice. I'm from New Zealand. I like lamb. So Turkish food is like, to me, it's like the best way to do lamb of any cooking in the world. I mean, I won't start a fight by saying it's like Greek food. I like Greek food as well. I used to work in a Greek restaurant as a cook. But yeah, I love Turkish food. I think it's seriously like top 3 foods in the world for me. So you don't need to persuade me. I would love to go to Istanbul, actually. I should do that sometime. Anyway, which country claims Crowded House? It's funny. My uncle tried to convince me with a straight face that Crowded House was really Australian because although the songwriter and the two leads of the band are both New Zealanders who they lived in Australia, and the guy on drums and the guy on bass or something were Australian, and that made the band overall more Australian than New Zealand. Which again, that's what Australians do. They sort of claim our stuff, but what can you do? Yeah, Spruikers spammers. The Spruikers scammers. The Roppongi, certainly you get the touts, you get the scouts and so on, trying to pull you into places with like a 5,000 yen cover charge. And no, never follow a tout. Never do that. Especially the I haven't been there lately, and it doesn't seem as bad as it was like about 10 years ago. But particularly there was this time when there was like this surge of Nigerian and a lot of like Nigerian organized crime coming in, and they seem to be edging in on the Chinese gangster, Japanese gangster parts of Roppongi, and some of those touts were particularly aggressive as well, like would grab you and like get angry at you and stuff when you tried to ignore them. So some people had trouble with that, although I haven't heard any problems about that in many years. So I think it's probably improved, but it was bad for a time, certainly. I think that got cleaned up anyway. Either, yes, we Denmark, Norway, Sweden can speak across languages in their own languages. The words are pretty similar, but Danish is more throat-spoken language, making it hard. Yeah, I've heard that. It's cool. If I was tossing up when I took Spanish at university, I took that. I was tossing up between that or Swedish. I took Spanish, which was probably the right answer. It's a more useful language, but yeah, I considered it anyway. Finnish restaurants. Wow, Yoni, you can recommend some Finnish restaurants in Tokyo, but the IKEA meatballs might taste better. Oh, Finnish people are so modest. I mean, really? Are they that bad? Again, I've got no idea what Finnish food even is, but there you go. I'm going to push on. Geez, we're still like 4 days ago. I thought I'd get through this much more quickly, but is this my life? You pay 20,000 yen for hostess bar. Is that a question or a statement? I'm sorry to hear that. Hostess bar. I mean, I haven't been to hostess bar in a long time. The hostess bars in Kashiwa are like 3,000 or 4,000 yen an hour for watered down drinks and talking with a girl who pours you drinks, which was fine. I didn't really see the point of them, but my surfing friends like to go to them after surfing. I've been to one in Roppongi that I think was like probably about 1,000 yen an hour, or 10,000 yen an hour. And that was for like, very good-looking women who were expert conversationalists and everything else. So you got something for that. But 20,000 yen, I would question. I would question if that's just good company, but we'll see. I am rebooting the screen sharing function because I'm having technical issues, which are of course a feature of the show. Boom, come on, come back to life. It's coming back. Boom, it's back. Okay. Yes, was trying not to call world-ending, civilization-ending climate change lovely, but it was 27.5 degrees, which is like 85 or 80 degrees or something. In Fahrenheit, it was lovely this week, but it is cold now. So, yeah, I'm paying for that one. Tokyo got a little bit bigger. Iwo Jima, the island Iwo Jima where they had the big battle in World War II. It's like 2,000 kilometers or something south of Tokyo. It's as far from Tokyo as you can possibly be, but it is part of Tokyo Prefecture. An underwater volcano erupted there just off Iwo Jima, and it's like joined up with the land, and it's extended the land there by about 300 meters. It's still erupting. So Tokyo just got a little bit bigger, so that's kind of cool. Although, whether that's really Tokyo is what can you do? I was distracted by a squirrel holding an IKEA meatball. Damn straight I was. That's right. That's what we do on the show. In news of things, I hope that the People's Republic of China, with its military designs against Japan, I hope they don't find out about this tactic that it turns out, stops the self-defense forces defending itself. Apparently, a self-defense force exercise was suspended after a member was showing the middle finger. He was flipping the bird at some reporters, at some media, so they canceled the entire operation. So apparently you can stop the entire Japanese military if you can entice them to flip off the media. So, yeah, that's a thing. I don't know. Don't tell China. Top baby names in Japan. This is sort of interesting. There's a poll of like top current baby names, and of course, the whole nature is that they always try to come up with new names that are not in popular use for adults. So, you know, you can sort of sometimes tell the age or the era that people are from by the names. It's like with English names as well. You know, you have popular baby names. These names are kind of, I can't even read most of these. It's kind of funny. I don't know how they get to be popular. So the first one, Ren, I can read. But if I were to see that name Ren, which I think is orchid or something, it's like a flower, I would assume it was a girl's name rather than a boy's name. But apparently it is very popular. It's the most popular name for boys right now. But all the other names you can see there, Ao, Haruto, Minato, Aoi. Like Aoi? Seriously? Again, once you're used to seeing lots of names and you know what it means, you'll know how to read it. The thing about names is that sometimes the same kanji will have totally different pronunciations. So it's really more you learn by habit and familiarity. And since I'm not familiar with these names, I wouldn't be able to read these names. I'd assume that these are like Chinese names or something because they're not even characters that you see very often in Japanese. For Japanese girls, Himari, sunflower, it's a nice name, but again, I can't read that kanji. It's kind of cool though. Rin, Sui, Tsumugi, Yuina, at least these names sound like girls' names. I would recognize that. But again, I wouldn't be able to recognize these kanji. So these are popular kids' names right now. Coming back to Vincent Birch, I don't think any of these really translate very well. Ring could be Lin, I guess. For girls' names always work a little bit better. But boys' names, they don't really work at all. Ow! Think about it. The second most popular boy's name at the moment is Ow. How do you write that? OW? Make for fun passport times. Man, try going through Australian customs. I had to go through Australian customs as a kid with a photo of me as 4 years old, and it was merciless. They would make fun of me. But if you had a name like Ow, wow, that would top that. Yeah, Cobras Tenchi hopes that the island stays a bit longer and doesn't cause the pumice problem that we had in Okinawa. Well, indeed, but what can you do? These things happen all the time. Jason L. Gatewood, good to see you there in the chat. Let's do the craziest kid names we ever saw in Japan. Oh, I'd have to pause and think about that. So definitely share those in the comments. Naruto could definitely be there. I think there's names there that I would be interesting now as well, given that are you AI would be the question nowadays. But that's a very common name. In fact, it's kind of an out-of-date name. It's so common with older people now. Funny story here I had to share. This guy got out of the gym bath naked, walked into the locker room buck naked, where the cleaning lady was there who saw you in the mirror, and she turned around to him naked and gave him a little bow. He didn't know what to do, so he gave a little bow back. I think every guy who's been in Japan, who's been to an onsen or a sento or a gym, you know, like the cleaning ladies, or even at work in the office, the cleaning lady will just walk into the toilet when men are there. But that whole thing, yeah, I come from a culture where we feel like you're not supposed to like flash your junk around like old ladies or stuff. But in Japan, at least in these circumstances, it's considered normal. And again, if he's concerned, I think someone said in the comments, dude, she's seen it all before. Which would be right. I mean, I suppose. I don't know. What other reactions could you do in that situation? You consider like thumbs up, thumbs down? I don't know. I think the bowing back was kind of cool, though. I did appreciate that story. What's the Slow Horses is starting again on Apple Plus. I saw the finale of the morning show on Apple Plus. I didn't like season 3. I don't know what happened. Season 3 of TV shows, always the writing goes like this. And that was a really good show on season 1 and season 2, but season 3 is kind of not doing it for me. And season 3 of For All Mankind has just started. And that as well is getting very soap opera-y for me. I hope Foundation doesn't do this. I need Foundation to be good. Gen V also finished this week, the Boys spinoff on Amazon. That was good. That was really good. Gross, but really good. So highly recommend that if you're looking for something good to watch. There's nothing good to watch. All I'm watching is YouTube right now. I'm having trouble finding TV shows that I think are good, worth watching. Oh, and that's actually what I was just tweeting there. So yeah, we've just had Japanese official winter start. A new big airship for transport is starting in Silicon Valley. I'd love to fly in one of these. I do think, of course, everyone got afraid because of the Hindenburg thing, but that problem was solved like 80 years ago. It's basically just a PR problem. I think it'd be awesome to be able to fly basically like a cruise liner on an airship. I'm here for that. Cobras Tenchi, that story reminds you of a joke, but it'd be too long for the chat here. Well, yeah, feel free to share if you want to. And by the way, good to see Lucas Musser in the chat. Good to have you here. I mean, I'm still in the Philippines, I guess, right? So good to have someone from the Philippines in the chat. Yeah, moving right along. Small nuclear reactor didn't get built in America because it cost too much, which is interesting. So I thought that might be a solution for global warming for energy sources. But there you go. Good to see Georgia, former Soviet republics, Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine, all of which have chunks of them being occupied by Russia, being invited to proceed with the EU negotiations. And remember, Russia invaded those countries to be able to stop them from being able to join the EU. I think the EU has to recognize that that's sort of, you're letting the terrorists win in a way by not proceeding them. So I think that's actually great. I'm totally from the outside here, but I hope that those countries can get into the EU. Yeah, just some stupid stuff there. That is a stupid racist person. What else have we got here? A Japanese fusion reactor produced its first plasma, so it's moving towards being able to generate fusion energy. That's pretty cool. By the way, this account, Green Nuclear, they direct messaged me and asked me, hey, would I be interested in retweeting pro-nuclear messages? Because they saw me, addressing like anti-Fukushima pollution, sort of propaganda and correcting the messaging. So I guess they must be like backed by a kind of, pro-nuclear lobby. And while I think nuclear is, my position on nuclear is that it's not ideal, but I do think it's actually valid. And if you consider climate change to be a global emergency, which I think objectively it's a civilization world-ending emergency type thing, which we should be acting with more urgency to deal with, I would say even with the Fukushima accident, what we did, like the way that Germany stopped nuclear power and switched entirely to Russian gas, and the way that Japan shut down like 36% of its electricity generation from nuclear power and switched to coal, I would say in an emergency, you would accept the risk. You would try to move off nuclear power and have renewables and figure out the storage problems and everything like that. But you wouldn't switch to coal or, gas or oil or anything like that, which Japan did. So I consider nuclear to be a lesser evil. I would like better types of these modular nuclear interesting. Fusion would be wonderful, although it's always like 30 years away. But nuclear, to me, I consider kind of a necessary and worth it evil in light of the climate emergency. But I wouldn't actually, I wouldn't be comfortable being like messaging pro-nuclear, other than, of course, there's so much hysterical misinformation about it by people. The anti-nuclear movement is basically see themselves as being in an information war and have no problems sharing like misinformation around that. But yeah. Question here from Sapro J, by the way, which was a while ago. My chat isn't refreshing, but I'll highlight it since I think it's to me. Do I consider Tokyo a city? Technically, is it correct to say Yokohama is Japan's largest populated city? No, Tokyo is the largest city. Well, so Tokyo is many things. Tokyo is a prefecture. Tokyo also has a 23-ward metropolitan area in the middle, as well as there's a greater Tokyo, which encompasses actually, Yokohama and all the surrounding prefectures as well. So measured as the 23 wards, I think Tokyo, so Yokohama is like 5 million people, and Tokyo, the metropolitan area of Tokyo, I think is like 9 million or something. Tokyo Prefecture is 14 million, and Greater Tokyo is like 35 million. Really, if you ever came here and drove from Tokyo Station to Yokohama Station or took the train, it's like 20 minutes on the train, and there's no separation. They're literally, it's actually closer from Tokyo to Yokohama, I think, than Shinjuku. So Yokohama is just basically just an artificial line in the middle of the city, in the middle of Tokyo. So Yokohama is the number 2 city, and sadly for Yokohama, everyone always thinks that Osaka is the number 2 city. Because it's so merged with Tokyo, but it is a separate city, and Tokyo itself is also it's all of the things. It's a metropolis, it's a megalopolis, it's a prefecture, and it's a metropolitan area. So I would consider it to be a city. Refreshing over here and going up, Vincent Birch, for around 50s, other than jogging, what other fitness regimens would I recommend? I haven't mentioned this, but for like a while now, I've messed up my shoulder, but it's gotten particularly bad. I've done some things to really injure it kickboxing. And so I basically I've been going to like rehabilitation like 2 or 3 times a week. So talk about getting close to 50 problems. And speaking of getting close to 50, I have my birthday this week. Still safe margin. I'm still Well, as of right now, yeah, currently I'm closer to 45. I will be coming closer to 50. I'm making peace with that. I think I'm aging okay. But yes, yes. So very very much on the mind at the moment. That said, this sort of injury, I've talked to people that have it. I just cannot move this arm like any higher than this. I can't scratch my back. It's awful. I've got to do, I can only reach around my back with my right arm, so it's awful. The rehab is paying off, but it's the sort of thing that takes months to get better, and it's a real mess. It's why I haven't been carrying my camera when I run lately, and I don't think that's what did it, but yeah, it's frustrating. The things that I really enjoy, so running is great. I was doing low impact sort of exercises like push-ups against the wall when I was in the shower. I was doing, again, maybe that's what caused the injury, but I was doing sort of lower impact like calisthenics and stuff like that. So there's lots of things you can do. For me, I try to do things that are fun. I must admit, I do like the idea of getting back into rugby refereeing, partly because I don't want to play contact and get injured anymore. But yeah. So, and now the chat all moves again. So there's the comment there. So for me, whatever's fun. I mean, look, Victor, he is over 50, I believe, and he does weights and he's in great shape, and he works out a lot. So I can't do that. I can't do that sort of exercise. But I think that is actually what a lot of people recommend, like slow weights are great for older people. But for me, I do like aerobic stuff, which is just inherently not good as you get older. But I enjoy it. So what can I do? Quinn Rankett, he thought Russia was more worried about NATO membership. Well, all of that. They're worried about sphere of influence. They think that basically, sovereign countries are not equal, that there are spheres of influence, that Russia's a big country and they get to have a say in what happens. Actually, not just to the former USSR, although, of course, former USSR. So, they got pissed off. Like the whole Maidan thing was, very much about that whether Ukraine wanted to move not just NATO, but economically and politically in the direction of seeking EU membership, or wanting closer economic ties with Russia, the economy stuff as well, just as much. So, Russia considers that those are all countries that belong to it. And lately they've come out more nakedly saying that they're not even real countries. So, yeah. Cobra Tenchi points out, yes, indeed, they are nice projects, but airships don't have a great track record of working. And sure, that's certainly the case. Remember what I said back in the day, just build them correctly. Stop cutting corners. If you're talking about nuclear power plants, probably, yes. Waito-san, long time no see, Waito-san. Good to see you, man. Now, South African man in Kyushu. Good to see you in the chat. Good to have you in here. Oh, wow. Chat's just moved a lot here. Okay, so still catching up. Boom. I see. What do we got? Happy birthday. Thank you. Happy birthday. Well, preemptive. You wish me happy birthday next week when it's actually happened, but it is coming up. So I am thinking about what sort of exercise I should be doing. Elastic band retraining. Indeed, I'm being told to do that. I'm not doing that because it's boring, but I should do it. Yes, I couldn't even roll over in bed because of the pain. Oh, you've had that before, Mr. Kordychep, and I also cannot roll over in bed because of the pain, and I sleep on this side. Again, that was probably part of the reason. Sleeping is the worst thing about it. So did it get better, Mr. Kordychep? Because it's killing me. I hope it. Yeah, I hope it got better. Oh, Shubhas. Oh, hang on a sec. You're not wishing me happy birthday. You're wishing Shubhas happy birthday. Yo, Scorpio bro. Good to see you. Wow. Well, I could tell you're a cool guy because you got a birthday 3 days apart from me. There you go. Happy birthday. What is it? Not Feliz Navidad. Feliz cumpleaños. Right there in Panama to Shubhas. Happy birthday. Well done. Happy birthday indeed. Lucas Massa, 46. Hey, we're all in the same club here. Yeah, anyway, lots of people there now coming back to looking forward at the injuries over here. Your injury got better after a week. My problem is I left my injury just to fester for like a couple of months, not doing anything, hoping it would get better, and also continuing to do boxing. Yeah, and that was stupid. I made it worse. When is the next stream with Victor? Asks, is this my life? Good question. Actually, I did contact him and say, hey, we missed it last month. We've got to do it again. He's having a busy life, and I must admit I've been terrible about catching up with him, so I should do that. Robert Brooker, I will be back. The birthday is coming up. I haven't had it yet, so there you go. Not yet. But yeah, anyway, back into the topic. So I'm going to charge ahead. So you see this guy. He may not look very intimidating, but this is Kazuo Shi, who is the chairman of the Japanese Communist Party, who, while does a good job of coming across as a nice guy, he has ruled the Japanese Communist Party with an iron fist. He has not permitted an election or an internal challenge to his leadership in 23 years ago this month. Yeah, well, the socks and sandals and the computer and the CRT screen and everything look nice. That smile is that he knows he is going to crush all of the enemies of the people, because there ain't no party like a communist party, because a communist party don't stop. And when you're the leader of it, that's how it goes. So, yes, it's kind of on brand. You know, people say the Japanese Communist Party, they're not affiliated with the Chinese or the Russian Communist parties or anything like that. They're their own sort of democratic socialist party, a term currently being thrown around in America. But it turns out that, when you decide to have a communist party, it don't stop. So this has been a big topic of news this week. We have somebody posted that apparently people who work at the large English school GABA, which is apparently owned or taken over or merged with Nova, which used to be the big English teaching chain, sort of the big one. If you come to Japan, you want to make enough money to go and drink a couple of beers, not a lot of beers, but enough beers, and be able to survive and look up anime and stuff like that in Japan. Oh, this thing keeps crashing. Stop it. Rebooting. GABA is the place a lot of people go to, and but there's a lot of stories about these places. How two sides, I suppose. There's a lot of unmotivated people who are just want to get some pocket money to go drinking, who like to go work at these places, as well as these places don't treat their teachers or even their students very well. Sometimes there's the other side of the reputation, and then on the other hand, maybe they're perfectly good businesses, but you just have people who are young and they're abroad and they're not used to working for companies and they just complain about everything. So there's a lot of perspectives on it. I've never worked at GABA or Nova, so I don't know firsthand any of this, but you hear a lot of people complaining about bad terms. So apparently this notice was sent around to all the teachers. Well, this notice actually is from the union warning people about how they are, but it refers specifically to a notice down the bottom pointing out that apparently from as of April 1st, 2024, so next year, if there's a lesson cancelled, and there's a clarification on this, if the lesson is cancelled without notice, so basically students show up but the teacher doesn't show up, they will charge students a fine of up to 6,500 yen per lesson, which some people have pointed out, given that you only actually get paid something like, 1,400 yen per lesson or whatever. In fact, they've got the different sort of fees that they'll charge, basically, that they'll dock pay or charge fees for other sort of infringements on not showing up to lessons. They point out, the union points out that you can end up with a negative paycheck if you don't show up. And they also talk about, that these fines will apply even if it's for childbirth or hospitalization or bereavement. There's no excuses. You'll be fined. And, so this got shared around like, be careful. And it's like, hey, kids, if you've ever dreamed of working at a job with an abusive employer, that may be in economic trouble, because people say, why are they charging money? Are they going out of business like Nova was? Have I got a deal for you? And this sort of went viral. A lot of people started commenting at this, people sharing stories about how, abusive and bad these companies were. And it sort of progressed where apparently a manager from this place last night decided he could make everything better. He or she was going to fix everything by, thought that he would do a Reddit thread attempting to address some damage control. You'd go on Reddit, do it, ask me anything, and people said, so is it true, like if someone's in an accident and they're in a coma, and they don't, and as a result of being in a coma they don't show up for their lessons, that they're going to be fined and owe the company money? And he was like, well, technically yes. The AMA, it's on Reddit, and although it's all been deleted because it's so terrible, you can sort of see some of the chats here, but basically they were like, is the information on the flyer true? And it's like, well, it's true, but they exaggerated. When they said you could be, have a negative paycheck, they enlarged the font for that. It's like, okay, the font's bigger, but it's what it says, right? So there was sort of that, and he's like, and remember, this is forwarded by the union, and a lot of those people support the communists. Nobody really reacted to that. Like that seemed to be like a legitimate comeback, which I thought was a bit strange. And then later on, they were like, why is this even happening? And he said, well, you see, the problem is lately we've been hiring a lot more people from the Philippines who teach. And Filipinos, it's their culture. They just don't show up to things on time, and we need this to be able to, give them an incentive to be able to not break the rules. And I was like, I mean, you talk about putting your foot in it a few times. I'm like, okay, the people who are pointing out that we're ripping our employees off are communists, people like that go by. When he said that we're doing this because Filipinos are lazy, again, the response, I thought he was dead at that, but the response was, oh, so you're hiring third worlders now. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like, the responses are just kind of as racist stereotypes as the commenter. But no, he basically went on clarifying that, lazy teachers deserve not to get paid, and it basically just made it worse and worse. He kept saying things which, and it's kind of funny. He was adamant, or the OP was adamant, that he wasn't put up to it by the school. He was just doing it spontaneously. He made the situation so much worse. It's kind of darkly hilarious, but it does point out, actually, after watching that, I was going through my feeds just tonight, and there was an NHK story of where is it? Of how many foreigners have become taxi drivers. And even though it's hard work, it is, wait a minute, where are we going? Boom, 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 boom. Let me find it. Children's news. There's like an American taxi driver who used to be an English teacher but became a taxi driver because it was better pay, although much harder work. Some people pointed out, yeah, taxi driver's not easy work either. You have to put up with difficult customers, and so on. But there's a shortage of taxi drivers. So that's another alternative, but again, by no means an easy job. But it's kind of interesting to hear. There's actually, and by the way, there's Mahjong Jen, I think is her handle name, but I've interacted with her a few times. She's got a really interesting account. She's got a YouTube channel. She's like a pro Mahjong player, I think. She does like a whole YouTube channel just on like Mahjong, and I don't do Mahjong, so I can't really interpret like how good she is or anything like that. But yeah, she's really active on Gaijin Twitter. I find her a good account to follow, and it's interesting. Her husband is a driver. She said. So that was just some interesting insight there as well. Also, I did share after that there was whenever people ask me for advice on labor law, if you're having trouble with the boss in Japan, I always point out that the best place to go is the local labor standards bureau, the Rodo Kijun Kyoku. They actually, apart from the fact that that's who you report to when you say that, if someone's like withholding your pay or doing something that might be illegal, like docking your pay for, being in a coma, not going to a lesson, pardon me. If you want to check if that's legal, not only can you complain at the Rodo Kijun Kyoku, but they often do, they'll have like consultation hours where they'll actually have labor lawyers available working sort of pro bono for free, including in foreign languages at these labor standards bureaus are everywhere. So find your local labor standards bureau. They can connect you with labor lawyers that can advise. And just for what it's worth, one thing that this person said on the Reddit chat was, people said, is this legal? And he said, oh, this is very legal because these people are not employees. They're all independent contractors. And as a result of them causing damage to the company, they can, we can fine them. It's legal. And someone said, isn't that what Nova was found to be in violation of labor laws because they were treating all of their employees as independent contractors when they weren't. And as a result, they faced massive fines and government penalties. Isn't GABA doing the same thing? He's like, no comment. He didn't say no comment, but that's more or less people pointing out. So I don't know, but I would say to anyone who's wondering, is this legal? Can they do this to me? Do that. I'm not a qualified Japanese lawyer, so I can't comment on Japanese labor law, but I do send people. That's a good place to go. And actually, Chris Israel Baker suggested as well, there's a bengoshikai.jp is a good site to go to find lawyers if you have any Japanese legal advice. One thing, if you ever go to a lawyer asking for advice, lawyers know that it's not, I'm not supposed to give advice on places that I'm not qualified for, although day to day I do work with Japanese law. I would always say if you need proper legal advice, one, try not to ask a friend, get proper advice if it's something consequential, and get it from someone who's qualified to give the advice that they're giving. We're up on time. A couple more things just before I go. I watched 2 videos in a day yesterday about Lagos, Nigeria, the capital of Nigeria. Apparently, that city is on track to be like the first 100 million person city within the century. It's kind of crazy how Africa, one, the birth rates there are so high, the youth of the population and the size of this particular city. This is going to be the world's first 100 million person city. And it really just shows there are lots of metrics, and the fact it's got this huge startup and tech industry there. I mean, again, for all the issues that those places have, when you have when you have as many people and those cities are as big as they are, there's just from the mass of people, there's going to be an economy. There's going to be smart people who are going to work in tech and startups. There's going to be people who are going to come up with businesses serving that community and get super rich. And they had 2 startup billionaires who have done from businesses based in Nigeria. And it was just fascinating, and it really shows, just in the same way that Asia, kind of through the same things, through being overpopulated and economically less developed, how China and Hong Kong and Singapore and Japan have come up in the 20th century. There's no question the same thing is going to happen to Africa in the next century. And there's a big argument, I think, that figuring out where to get in early, like investing and supporting the development of Africa now is probably going to pay off massively. It'll take a few decades, but it's already happening in some ways. I think it's just really fascinating watching that shift, from the inevitable shift from Asia to Africa. And it's something that I think China's picked out really well. They've seen that coming, and that's why China pours so much aid over into Africa, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Final one for the day. Final one I'm going to talk about before I go back into the comments. Sometimes I notice, new accounts following me on Twitter, and I sometimes I look at them and I'm like, why are you following me? Sometimes it's, sexy women. Sometimes it's random Japanese people with no tweets or whatever. And I saw this one today. There's this account that started following me called Hoshutoin, which is like the Conservative Party member is literally the name on the account. And I was thinking, oh, this is a Japanese right. And sometimes they do this. They go looking for foreigners to be outraged at, like Japanese right-wingers and conservatives. But I saw the account, and it was mostly talking about there's a big rally for this party. This party's leader is someone that I do not like. He's a far-right politician. I won't get into that, but they did a big rally in Osaka, and it was kind of amazing how this new party that's just been invented, and it's very far-right, got such a big crowd in Osaka. But of course, the reason for it is this person said in English, he got a screen cap of a show, that the Osaka Expo costs are being like triple layered on top of Osaka city residents that have to pay per person all of these different fees. Every person in Japan is paying 600 yen for the expo, but on top of that, Osaka prefecture residents are paying 5,000 yen per person, and on top of that, Osaka city residents are paying like 20,000 yen. So, and Osaka residents are paying all of those, both the prefecture, national, and Osaka city. And people are feeling like Ishinokai, the Osaka party, that's overseeing the expo, is causing them to get ripped off because the costs are going over. And this is probably why a lot of people showed up to listen to see what this far right-wing party had. So I shared that. Say, hey, new person following me, probably poking the bear, retweeting something that they said. But I thought, I do like to even read and share opinions of people I disagree with. And I thought, well, hey, welcome to being a follower. I'm going to retweet one of your tweets. And this person, as soon as I tweeted out that this person, because Ishin messed up, that's why Hoshito is so popular, he came out and said, this, in Japanese, outrage, this foreigner with 14,000 followers twisting my words, saying that the Hoshito is wasting Osaka taxpayers' money. Everybody, get him. And I was kind of like, wait. I tweeted back to him in Japanese. He said this in Japanese. And I tweeted back to him in Japanese. Wait. No. I'm saying everybody's like loving your party. I'm retweeting what you tweeted, explaining that this is why people think Ishin sucks. And he's kind of, he didn't say, Oshito didn't talk about that. And I'm like, I don't care. And it kind of petered out. But for a moment, I was a little bit afraid of having like right-wing mobs come after me based on me saying a nice friendly hello to the guy. So don't feed the bears. That's the lesson of the internet. Boom. Sadiq was censored. Was Sadiq censored? How did that happen? Anyway, Eric Bailey, good to have you. At least we can start now. It's good to see you there in the chat. Jason L. Gatewood, yes, you saw the same vid. Pretty too. Most people are under 30 in Africa right now, so that's literally where the workforce. I mean, the whole world is going to be going there. I mean, they have a lot of stuff to mess out. Maybe you did see the same video. And there are aspects that the tech startup stuff was interesting, but at the same time, the neighborhood gangsters problem and stuff like that is still a problem there. But so much potential there. I think it's really interesting. Throw squirrels. That's why it's happening. Aaron, Sadiq was censored. I don't wonder what happened with Eric anyway. Project X01, you've been there in the past to sort out the to the Labor Standards Bureau. There you go, Project X1. Thank you for commenting. I'm glad to hear that. I've never been there myself, but I do recommend that people go there, and it's good to hear an example where they actually, for free, help people out with labor issues with their bosses and so on. So, yeah. Quit ranking. If you're at a coma, no doubt you'll be talking to your boss or your lawyer. Indeed. Yeah. Anyways, great to see everybody commenting. Yoni, any chance for an updated Japan Business Time with Rochelle? You watched them all over. You watched all of them last week again. Wow. I'm very proud of those. They're a lot of work. I would love to do that again. I know that Rochelle's around in Japan. I think we've both been busy with life a little bit, but they are really great, and I am really proud of them. And they don't have that many views. I'm very glad that I'm kind of impressed you watched all of them. But yes, indeed, the Japan Business Time series was fun, and it's literally talking about this stuff. In fact, maybe this is the basis that we could start a new Japan Business Time. Yeah, great to see. I'm going to do a quick final scan of people. Oh, we've got Sadiq there. You want to see Japan communists? Who are they paying to them? China, Russia, which is more capitalist than the USA. Maybe North Korea, Rocket Man. Who's paying the Japanese? Well, it's funny. The North Koreans pay the socialists, and some right-wingers say that Okinawan, like base protesters. The Japanese Communist Party gets the highest level of declared donations of any political party in Japan, mainly because the LDP hides the donations. But yeah, Lucas Massa, don't say that. Not supposed to say that. I know you're in the Philippines, but no. But yeah, anyway, the fact that this person just blanket said it is still problematic. The Tony Montana School of Communist Relations, yes, indeed. Oh, no, it's doing that thing. Kofi, wow, wild time. You were working over when it collapsed. I'll bet you've got some stories. So yeah, anyway, those are all the comments. Thank you for keeping me company as always this week. Yeah, it's getting cold in the Northern Hemisphere, so stay warm. It's getting hot in the Southern Hemisphere, so stay cool. Yeah, keep cool till after school. Don't get the Rona, don't get influenza. Take care. Follow me on Twitter if you want to follow me on Twitter. Have a good week, everybody, and boom, peace. Thank you for the squirrels. Ending stream. Mr. Cordy Chap, I'm glad that you like them. Yeah, assuming you're talking about my videos. If there are other people's videos, then I don't want to hear it. See you later. Boom. Ending video.